Hello. Okay, thank you very much. That's much better. Great to see such a full room at such an early hour. It's amazing. So it's great to be here. We have a very interesting conversation ahead. We are going to be discussing MiCA. So, as I was saying, my name is Juan Ibañez. I'm the General Secretary of the MiCA Crypto Alliance, an initiative to promote best practices in MiCA compliance and assist our member companies in implementing MiCA requirements. But I'm not going to be doing the talking here. It's a star lineup of panelists that we have on stage, and we're going to be discussing the competitive advantage that a MiCA license provides. That's what makes a licensed company stand out, but also under what circumstances and what are the gaps? What else do we need, and how do we adapt our processes? Do we need a round of introductions? Let's do a round of introductions, and let's have our panelists introduce themselves, please. So let's start with Erald.
Absolutely. So I'm Erald. I'm the CEO of OKX in Europe, and we have our MiCA license in Europe already since January.
Yes, hi. My name is Marco. I'm Managing Director of Bullish Europe, which is the European entity of Bullish Global. We are also MiCA licensed since a couple of weeks, and yeah, we passported throughout all of Europe because that's our core market here.
Hey everyone, my name is Michael Stroev. I'm the co-founder and CEO at VENGA. VENGA has applied to the cryptocurrency license MiCA. We still haven't received it. We're in our application process. I've been in the crypto space professionally since 2020, and I've kind of seen it all. I've been through a time where no licenses were required, no VASPs existed. Then VASPs came to be. I was actually part of a company that we were, I think, number 8 in Spain to secure the VASP license. And now I'm co-founder at VENGA, and we are in the process of getting our MiCA license. Thank you.
Hi everybody, so my name is Marijn. I'm the Chief Marketing and Growth Officer at Bitvavo. We are a Amsterdam-based centralized exchange from the Netherlands, but we're built for Europe, and we also have secured our MiCA license in June. So we're now poised to further grow in Europe with what we consider a very exclusive exchange license, because MiCA is not a one-size thing, right? There's many aspects to MiCA, and we pride ourselves in having a MiCA exchange license, and we're looking forward to the panel discussion.
Great, thank you very much. And let's just dive right into it. Actually, I want to start with Erald. So OKX was one of the first to secure a license. I think it was in January even. So I think we can appreciate your perspective here a bit. What makes a licensed company, a MiCA licensed company, stand out, and what competitive advantage do you think it provides?
So in terms of advantages that we recognized immediately early on was the level of trust. Additional trust both from our retail users but also our institutional users. That was one thing that immediately we realized that was a big uptick in our business. Now the other thing that is also important is the perception with partners. As a large exchange now also setting foot in Europe, we also want to partner with local payment rails. We want to partner with local EID solutions. We want to partner with data brokers to help reduce frictions when our users onboard on our platform. So back in the day, before we had the pan-European MiCA license, they were quite skittish to us because we only had our license in Malta and the Netherlands. So they were like, look, this is not on a pan-European level. So then when we got the MiCA license, it really, put a stamp of pan-European approval on us, and it was much easier to start engaging in partnerships with payment companies, with EID solutions, with data brokers. So in that sense, it really helped in propelling our business in Europe forward.
Thank you very much for that. And you mentioned partnerships, you mentioned brokers. I want to ask Marijn, from your perspective as CMO, do you also see an advantage, and you don't need to say yes, tell us the truth, do you see an advantage for customer acquisition from having a MiCA license?
I'm going to say yes. I see big advantages, and that is because we serve two sorts of customers, right? So we are a retail exchange, so we go direct to consumers, so consumers can download our app and be a customer straight away. We have 2 million ID verified accounts at the moment and poised to grow to 10 million. But we also, of course, serve the institutional market. And with MiCA, you see many new players stepping in, banks, brokers, asset managers, and those customers. For those customers, we're also in the market because they need a settlement venue, and yeah, that is a second opportunity for us. So yeah, I see it as a big opportunity.
And I also want to ask this to you, Marco. Bullish obviously has a strong institutional component. And Erald was already hinting at the component of trust. So how do you see this advantage, and how does Bullish see it?
Well, I can totally agree that this is actually one of the reasons why Bullish, as one of the biggest liquidity providers in the world, has chosen Germany as its European headquarter. And we applied for the MiCA license with BaFin, which is the tier 1 regulator, I would say, in Europe. And this is a strategy Bullish follows around the globe, being licensed with top-tier regulators only, due to the fact that we are mainly address institutional clients, banks, brokers, dealers, as mentioned earlier here on that stage. The level of trust that comes with the tier 1 license is the best you can get to open doors at your clients. So from that point of view, there's really nothing more to add, but yeah, it's trust. Compliance officers like the MiCA license, especially coming from a tier 1 regulator, and this is our experience as well.
So would you say, I mean, you had a pre-MiCA license before. Would you say there was a before and after in terms of the trust perceived with the MiCA license in particular?
Yes and no. We've been BaFin licensed before under the German Banking Act as a VASP. This gave us enough credibility to get pretty well connected and address our potential clients. But nevertheless, literally everyone was waiting for us to become MiCA licensed, as MiCA, especially focused on crypto, was the final door opener, I would say.
Yeah, can I just maybe also like add a few notes on the before and after, right? Because from our perspective, from VENGA's perspective, it's very different. We're a very early stage startup, right? So the company was actually formed only in 2023. We secured our first VASP licenses in 2024, and right when we secured our VASP licenses, we immediately started working on MiCA. So really, from one side, it pushed us to change all of our strategies. It's pushed me to change my strategies and approach of how quick I need to implement everything that we needed to implement for MiCA. But at the same time, the positive side of that is that we are built from the ground up to be MiCA compliant. It was an effort of everyone on my team. It's a huge effort because in essence, we're going through VASP licenses, then we're embarked in MiCA licensing application, and at the same time, we're launching a company from zero, right? But right now, we're in a very comfortable place, I can say, where we are MiCA compliant from the ground up. So for me, on the before and after, it's very funny when like I heard that question. There is no really before, there's just today.
But let me follow up on that also, because I was listening to your previous talk, right? And you were presenting strategies starting in Catalonia, going to Spain, and then to the rest of Europe. So typically, when we think of the advantage of MiCA, we think of, well, you can access 30 countries almost with a single license. Caveats there, but basically. But that's not the only way to go about it, or you don't go about it in that way from the start. So can you tell us a bit more about how that strategy geographically looks like, and at which point the MiCA license plays a more important role?
Yeah, of course. So I mean, MiCA plays an important role from day one, right? We need to be regulated, and that's that label of trust that we need to have. But it's just my strategy and my approach is that we need to think local before going global, right? VENGA is a Barcelona-based company. Ever since I moved to Barcelona, I wanted to build a company that truly serves the local community, right? So the strategy that I have is we go Barcelona, Catalonia, then we go Spain. In 2026, we're translating our application into Galician and into Basque. Once we do that, we'll be the first crypto app in the world to have all main Spanish dialects. Then once we do that, we'll go and consider expanding into other countries in Europe. Right? But if we do so, when we do so, we will always do so with the localized approach, the same approach that I have in Spain. simply because also maybe want to point out that I grew up in the age of globalization. You know, you travel hundreds of miles, hundreds of thousands of miles, whatever, and you arrive to different cities, and it's all the same. Same shops, same stores, same things everywhere. That's kind of the globalization. And I'm a little bit sick of it. And I truly believe that the way forward is having truly localized products that serve local cities and local communities as much as it's possible, right? Now, that might mean that we move a little bit slower, but I'm sure we'll be more successful and it'll be more effective in the long term.
I have plenty of follow-ups on that, but I don't know if you realize it was very inconspicuous, but we have another panelist on stage now. So, Mazurka, I would love to welcome you to the panel and allow you to introduce yourself. And I also want to ask you, as a follow-up of that, has MiCA proved a competitive advantage for Bybit EU? Is it a business enabler? How do you see it?
Hi, guys. Sorry I'm late. Let me introduce myself. This is Mazurka. Now I'm the EU director of Bybit EU. And previously actually working in the crypto industry for more than 6 years. And before that, actually more than 10 years of payment experience in different industries. So yeah, I think we're very excited to land it on EU. And one of like big partners here, we also hope that we can build up ecosystem. Like you said, the advantage that MiCA bring to us, I think the first one is it can literally help us to do the long-term strategy. Let's say if you want to do the business here, like link with the banks, also with some of the like professional financial institutions, and definitely we need to have license. And of course, I think with this kind of power, we can extend our business from different perspective, right? And secondly, I think it's also open more opportunities for us, you know, bring our existing experience products to the EU market, because previously you understand it's a different like financial environment, but now since we come here, I think this very excited to bring like international experience here. It's a mutual process for both of us.
Oh, thank you. And actually, I have a follow-up on that, because you were talking about banks, and I'd like us to... So we've been talking about the competitive advantages coming from a license in the abstract, but I also want to compare with other sort of players that may be entering the market, right? So when I think of MiCA, I've always thought of it as like the first step of a banking-grade regulation on crypto, on Web3. And you can think of it as an entry point for banks to the Web3 world, but also maybe for the Web3 incumbents to adopt more banking-like functions. So I want to double-click on that and ask you a follow-up. How do you see the relationship between exchanges and banks before and after the obtention of a MiCA license?
I gotta say, before we have a license, it's pretty hard to knock out the door. If you say who you are, and say, sorry, we just run global. And where you're licensed, you know, it's always very embarrassing question like this. But now at least we can say, hey, we get a license. We are happy to introduce ourselves. I know it's not so easy for us. I think for all of our players, it's not so easy to connect with them. But things are changing. You know, now when I talk with bank, at least they, firstly, they're interested to hear more about crypto. And when we want to build up a further cooperation with them, say, hey, are you interested to do the custody, or even we can do the white label service for you, or we can also support you for tokenization and listing. They are very interested and want to talk with us. And you already know a lot of banks actually issue stablecoin projects. So they always want to find a secondary market to listing, also create more value for their tokens. Of course, we can provide solution, and we are expert.
Marco, how do you see? Do you see banks and exchanges as competitors, as collaborators, a mix tilted to which side in the post-MiCA world?
I would say they start to cooperate. MiCA was one of the starting points to build the bridge between TradFi and DeFi. Now that it's a European regulation in place, even the old established TradFi players recognize, okay, DeFi is there to stay. So they need to think a little bit more about their scale of products. What are they willing to offer? What do they need to offer in the future to their clients? So, and bringing us as crypto natives into the game for them, as mentioned by Mazurka, is really not only to help them, but also to become partners and partner up with the established TradFi banks, brokers, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, if I can also maybe add a few points, an interesting insight. So one of the, actually the first company in Spain to have secured the MiCA license was the BBVA, a bank. Next, now, I think this week, Santander announced that they're entering the crypto space. They're launching a cryptocurrency exchange on one of their neobanks called Open Bank. So again, you have all of these players now, banks entering the space. This was not the case before, and it's very curious for me because CeFi, centralized finance, basically what VENGA is, was formed because banks were not in the crypto space. You had decentralized finance and DeFi and all of those things which were very complicated, and traditional finance was not in crypto. And in the middle, you got CeFi that formed, right? Specifically for people who need the simplicity of traditional finance, but don't want to go DeFi, right? So right now, this landscape is changing. Banks are entering the space, and I'm very curious where it will go moving from here, because in my opinion, it looks as if competition is starting, which isn't a bad thing, right? It also means institutional adoption and potentially maybe even a roadmap to M&As in the future.
And okay, so we've been talking about banks. And when we think banks, I think of slower institutions, not as digitally savvy. I don't know if that continues to hold true. I don't know what you think. But what about neobanks, though? Neobanks, they're supposed to be digitally native. They're supposed to be faster to move. So, okay, we've discussed that there's a strong cooperation relationship as well as a competitive one. But how do you see the relationship with neobanks in particular? Marijn?
Maybe I can take that one. So we see banks as potential customers of Bitvavo, and neobanks also. Obviously, they're very early to come into the market and offer crypto to their retail base. But what you see and what I've seen so far is that these neobanks typically charge very high trading fees. And they also incur a quite significant spread in the pricing of the digital assets, right? Which is, I guess, fine if you're looking for convenience, if you're looking for easy accessibility and a one-stop shop, then I guess it's fine. And if you're a buy and holder, I guess these neobanks will always take a share of the pie, let's say. They're also helping to grow the pie because accessibility helps to grow adoption. But at the same time, I think the customers and the retail that wants to trade a little bit more, the more you trade, the more price sensitive you become. And that's also when you start to look for other trading venues. And that's where Bitvavo comes in. As said before, we only have 2 million retail clients, but we have 50%, 50, of the European denominated crypto pairs globally, which is mostly Europe, of course. And that is something we pride ourselves in. And we're happy and welcome neobanks and fintechs to enter the space. I think they help to drive adoption. When customers become more trading savvy and care more about pricing, then they will come to trading outlets like Bitvavo, and then we're also there to welcome them. And in the meantime, we're here for those banks and institutions to be welcomed as a customer, because they do need a trading venue, an exchange to settle their volume, right? So I think it's a big opportunity and a very welcome trend to see all these players step in.
So thank you for that. I want to go back to the issue of the competitive advantage, because lots of possible collaboration. I see very much the trust component, but let's try to dial back to that. And I'm interested in something that Michael said, which is you are a young company. You did apply for your VASP license first, but it was so close to the MiCA application that you consider yourself MiCA native almost. There's another situation, which is an established company that has been with a VASP license for a long time, and now finally applies for a MiCA license now that the regime is open. And then I have the question, the general question to everyone, but I'm going to ask to Erald first. Who is in a better position here? Is it the native firm because you have the flexibility to adapt all of your processes to MiCA from the ground up? Or is it a firm that already had everything adapted to a pre-MiCA license and has an infrastructure to build upon? And I was curious to ask this to OKX because OKX got it so early. So I'm wondering if that had anything to do with that.
Very good question indeed. And the thing is, for us, we already early on chose Malta as a jurisdiction. Why? Because let's call, I mean, like crypto, Bitcoin, it exists, you know, like more or less 15 years already, something like that. Depend on when you decide to the start of Bitcoin as an asset class or crypto as an asset class started. So then I think a couple of events happened. The regulators across the world also decided to step in and to regulate this new asset class, and also the industry players. We saw regulation coming in different jurisdictions across the world. Within OKX and also other players, we probably started to realize quite early on that the future of crypto and digital asset was going to be regulated of nature. So we then also started to look into, on a global level, all the jurisdictions that had already a crypto regulatory framework or were in the making of getting a crypto regulatory framework. We would go in, set up a local entity, hire a team of local experts, and try to apply for that license. Now we've done that already in several jurisdictions around the world, bringing it closer to home, to Europe. Malta was one of the first jurisdictions to come up with a comprehensive crypto regulatory framework. We then also decided to set up shop there. And compared to some of the other jurisdictions that we saw in Europe who had like a mere regulation or registration kind of setup, the setup in some of those countries where we opted to be present was a full licensed grade setup. Now the uplift from that VASP license that was already available back then to a full-scale MiCA license was relatively light, because they were already entered on PSD2 and EMI license structures. So for us, that uplift was a relatively light uplift for us to do.
But I just want to point out, I think that really depends on the type of company that you are. So of course, if you're an EMI institution and you have everything that is already pre-set up to be compliant, that's great. But if you're a company that is not EMI, that has been kind of, that has products and services that are more innovative, that's a different story. So maybe to give a backside of MiCA is that this year I had to cancel at least 3 innovative products that I was working on because they're not MiCA compliant. And that's fine, because there's a lot of other stuff that I can be focusing on, right? But that's just like paint you a picture, right? Sometimes there's more changes that are needed depending on the situation, depending on the company.
You are not planning on launching an interesting bearing stablecoin or so?
What's
that? No, it's just a joke about you launching a stablecoin.
Maybe soon, I don't know. Let's see. I would need a license.
Maybe a few additional words. We as Bullish, I mean, we were licensed in Gibraltar first, in Hong Kong then. As mentioned earlier, Germany is our European footprint. And for us, the European setup, I mean, we're on the ground for roughly a year now in Europe. So this is why we actually started with VASP license back in 2024 to migrate into MiCA. And this was a pretty much straightforward plan, actually. We have been in talks with the regulators early, and also we collaborated with the regulator to figure out what might be the smoothest and smartest way to achieve the MiCA license. And so this, I literally sit between chairs, right? I mean, having OKX Maltese license early, sitting next to a rather young company, literally walking the same path we did. And from that point of view, there's always a reason of why you choose your individual way. So I don't think there's a right or wrong per se, or an advantage being VASP regulator or VASP licensed and step up into MiCA, or building up MiCA from scratch.
No, I agree with that very strongly. I don't think there is a right or a wrong way in that sense. There are many different factors that come into play when companies choose a jurisdiction. That can be talent, that can be historical reasons, it can be for multiple different reasons. So I just want to say that, you know, like everybody here who has chosen to follow the MiCA path, also the team of VENGA, I just want to congratulate them and welcome them in the whole, you know, like pan-European MiCA licensed setup. So that's very impressive things for you guys to do.
Thank you.
I think there's a huge advantage and difference in how the different players treat Europe, right? In fact, you could break it down into global players that play the European play, like OKX, like Bybit. Bitvavo, who is built for Europe from the beginning. So the only thing we do is focus on continental Europe. We don't have a global strategy. We have a European strategy. And then there's the local national players, the brokers mostly, that start in the country and might see an opportunity to further expand into Europe. I think if you look at the global players, if you're not set out, if you're not started as a MiCA compliant or with MiCA in mind, it's very hard to adapt to the European requirements that the regulator sets, right? It's basically you're managing your global company, and now you have to make compromises for your European setup. If you look, for example, at Bybit, they have to duplicate the application, so you now have a second application that is Bybit EU. And many others also on the back end, they will have to make many changes. Some grew big as an exchange globally, but today they can only act in Europe as a broker. Some are raising their fees, so the whole level, the whole playing field is changing. And I think for the players that have always started out as a European focused and a European originating company, they are very much advantaged as long as they, you know, stick to their strategy and really focus on Europe. So I think there's huge advantages there.
I think actually it's a very interesting question, especially for all of us. From my perspective, I think definitely as a local players like Bitvavo, you have a lot of experience in Europe, and also because as a local player, you have a lot of resources advantage. Very known about reputation and bank connections, and also talent resources. I got to say it's a very good advantage, and it can help you to quickly adapt to the market, especially with MiCA. Even MiCA is new for all of us, but actually this kind of advantage is very important. But I also see a lot of challenge and you know the opportunities we bring to the market, because definitely when we have a license, especially introduce an international player like us to the market, what we want to bring to Europe is definitely our experience, like AML, also like a business continuity plan, and like our risk control policies. Because managing the very big user base, like for us already 76 million registration users, it's not a easy work. And every day we are confronted with a lot of challenges. I think at least it's something we can really introduce to Europe. And on another side, I think it's more comprehensive financial products. Because previously, if you come to Europe market, it's always scattered different like banking business, or like a spot trading, derivatives trading, you know, very isolated product. But what we bring to the regulator, also the environment, is more comprehensive product. That's why Sandbox is a really interesting model for all of us. We try to bring more opportunities, also create new product model. I think that's a new blood the European market really needs. And also for different kind of projects, they need this kind of new blood.
This has been my favorite question. I love the insights. It's actually getting really, really valuable, and I appreciate all of the unique perspectives that we're getting here. Mazurka, actually, I want to follow up on you because I want to move now from the issue of how you adapt, what this provides to you in terms of advantage, to what you need to better exploit it. Right? You are coming to the European Union from another jurisdiction. What support do you need from the regulators, from the ecosystem, to make the best use of these competitive advantages that we've discussed?
Yeah, I think it's something from all of us need to get support from the regulator. First of all, it's overall massive market user education. Even if we set up crypto as a business, now for the for the massive market, especially for some countries, crypto is still new. Need more people to understand it's not dangerous, it's not scammers. Actually, it's literally a business and it's important. Actually, it's a kind of positive investment. We need to, make more education on it. That's the first thing. Second thing is really like infrastructure support. Like I say, the banking system. I can definitely feel now it's not easy to link with all the banking system like for all the European countries because it's not pinpoint for like 1 or 2 years. Even when we try to meet some banks, I know maybe you have some experience. It's not easy. Even banks, they have different risk appetite. Now, not mention about crypto. So I think for this whole industry, it literally need all our players and to collaborate together with the regulator, financial instrument, to do more on it. Otherwise, a lot of pinpoint like liquidity, on-ramp, off-ramp banking rails, like lower fees, more like a better user experience. We cannot solve this kind of infrastructure issues. It's really pinpoint. So I think this kind of report is support is very important for us. The third one is I just want to tell from our Bybit perspective, because we always want to contribute more as a crypto hub. We want to build up ecosystem. In that case, we need to collaborate more with the Web2 partners, Web3 partners, also cross-industry partners to build up together. In that case, I think like today, like European blockchain convention, this kind of opportunities are very good for us. We hope that we can have more like communication in the industry, build up the business together. In that case, we can achieve our mission.
Other perspectives on this?
No, 100% aligned with what Mazurka was saying. I think we also, as a group, and as an industry, need to work a little bit harder to come together as an industry. It's still a fairly young industry. But then also, if we see, like what happened, unfortunately, like last weekend or the previous weekend, that still shows that as an industry, we still need to, do a little bit more effort to come together and to prevent such kind of fallouts. So I think in that sense, we do need to step up a little bit as an industry and come together.
Yeah, but I mean, isn't this what MiCA is about in the end? Like bringing TradFi and DeFi closer together, collaborate, and serve as like one financial system of the future, and not separate the way it was back in the days when crypto was like really something for natives. And no one investing in TradFi was even looking at crypto. Now that everything is being regulated under European rule book, it's even easier also for the established, let's say, asset managers and so on, to allocate more of their institutional money into the crypto space and increase the asset allocation in the benefit of crypto. And I think this is also part of our work because as Mazurka mentioned, we consider ourselves as partners, future partners of big traditional banks, institutional players, offering full service within the crypto space, not only access to liquidity, but also brokerage, custody solutions, and if necessary, we step in as a one-stop shop provider.
Yeah, no, I wanted to maybe add a little bit of a different angle to this. So one thing that none of you mentioned, and this is also coming from VENGA's perspective, right? So from a small company, small startup perspective, one of the key things that is needed as support for MiCA is funding. MiCA is extremely expensive for a startup, right? The minimum prudential safeguards requirements that are needed to enter MiCA, huge. You need to have a full-time chief compliance officer. You need to have a full-time MLRO. You need to have a full-time team. You need to have all the policies in place, etc., etc. I mean, if you're an established player, yeah, of course, you have all that. But if now you're a startup coming into the space and want to be a centralized finance company and you're raising funds, that's a very difficult game right now. I can't imagine myself having a conversation with the VC and telling him, hey, look, I have this amazing idea, but just give me 500K. I need to get this license, which I might not get. Well, maybe I'll get it, maybe I won't. It depends how good I am at pitching.
It's not just funding, right? It's also, I mean, in the implementation, the proportionality of the requirements, harmonization in a reasonable way that still has a level playing field, but at the same time respects proportionality. And I believe we still have work to do on the implementation side.
I think
Marijn.
in the Netherlands, crypto is very popular in the Netherlands in terms of adoption, retail adoption, and all. From all the research that we do, we see that the adoption in the Netherlands is typically high. The same as with internet adoption. If you look in the finance category in the app or the Play Store, you look at the number of crypto companies in the top 100 compared to other European countries. There's many that are up there in the top 100. Now with MiCA, indeed, to what my neighbor, sorry, what's your name again? Michael, sorry. What Michael is saying, I also recognize in the Netherlands, for Bitvavo as market leader, it's sort of easy to carry the investment levels that are associated with obtaining a MiCA license and the number of people you require and the external support you need. But we've also seen a lot of players step out of the market in the Netherlands. Very, like the local brokers that only had a national play, they could not carry the burden and the effort that it took to obtain a MiCA license. So we've seen a shakeout there, and I think we see that across Europe. So there will be less competition from a national broker point of view. And you could say there is more competition from a global point of view, but that's not how we see it, because these regulatory forces will break down the global market into regional markets. And then again, repeating my message, if you're a European native player and you're fully committed to Europe, I think that brings a lot of advantage.
I think the competition is going to change because we have banks that are entering the space right now. So some players are leaving, some players are entering. So
yeah, and those players we welcome because they typically have very high fee models, and therefore they appeal to the investment type of retail that is less price sensitive. So they will take a share of the pie. But once people start to trade more, they become more cost conscious. So I think for brokers, banks are more competition because they're typically on the same price levels, but for exchanges that play a volume play, and therefore are low priced, we do not see that as competition, but as a welcome addition to our customer portfolio.
And to add to that, it's not only the cost of purely MiCA. If you want to operate in Europe as a financial institution, you also have to comply with DORA, with GDPR, with DAC 8. There are so many different type of regulatory requirements that you have to comply with. So overall, the whole margin of this kind of business is shrinking and shrinking. So indeed, it also makes it much more difficult for new entrants like the VENGA team to enter into this space, and already established people or players that are being squeezed out because of the strict regulatory requirements.
I mean, DORA requirements, let's not open that kind of worms, because if we were concerned about costs and MiCA, then this is going to be quite a difficult conversation. We're going to be here in a much gloomier mood. But at least, yeah, many players are exiting or choosing this is not for us anymore. Some are entering. Everybody here has decided to stay or to enter. So I guess you have a very unique perspective from the in-house, how it's been to see the transformation. I mean, every company, when they're applying for a MiCA license, it is a sprint. You need to adapt lots of the organizational processes. There's many adaptations, not just investments, as Michael was saying, but so many other adaptations. So how are you seeing that transformation of the internal processes? And this is a question for everyone, but I could start with Mazurka.
I gotta say, we need to build up a new framework for all the things. Since it's a new regulatory framework, we need to set up the whole team to adapt to it. Like all our friends mentioned, firstly, set up new framework. Also, compliance-oriented, like EU compliance-oriented structure. Also for our talent, we spend a lot, not only limited on money, also try a lot with our existing experience. I got to say it's tough. And another side, also just building up the different business plan, because it's totally different model, not comparable as a global business. We're also confronted with a lot of challenges. So building up the new business model, how to run the product roadmap, is the new topic for Bybit EU. And actually, we treat ourselves like a local exchange. So if that's the case, a lot of challenges we build up from scratch. We also call ourselves like a startup. So every challenge we're confronted with is the same as a startup confronted with. We want to do it more and also learn more from global, also learn from our local partners, learn more to build it up.
What about you, Erald?
Yeah, for us also now, that we're a licensed financial regulated institution, it comes with a whole additional layer of cost and safekeeping. There is this whole governance structure with having a board, with having the different type of committees that we have to put in place. Those are all things that before the whole MiCA, VASP, CASP kind of setup, those things didn't really exist. So now we have to make sure that we're much more robust. There is much more reporting that we now need to do. Also the other regulated activities that I just mentioned, like DORA, GDPR, DAC8, you name it, right? Like all those things need to be structured and overseen by a proper governance and board on a local level, with also having, indeed, as Mazurka also earlier pointed out, the right local talent and the right reputation of people to be part in those committees and in those boards. So those are things that, like in addition to all the things that we already know in terms of getting the local fiat rails, the local KYC providers, the local order books and stuff like that. Those are all things behind the scenes that also take up quite a bit of work that we have to now implement.
It's a huge behind-the-scenes transformation, and I can see all the nodding and smiles. I guess we are coming to the close of the panel. We're finalizing, so I'd like to ask each one of you for a final comment, and maybe if you could summarize in a single sentence, what's been the biggest impact that MiCA has had on the organization, the license has had on your organization? It could be the biggest competitive advantage or any other impact.
Well, I would start from our perspective. MiCA opens up doors into the institutional world, bringing institutional money into the crypto space. And this is probably the biggest impact we see based on our business model, obviously. And yes, I mean, licenses always come with a pro and a con, right? So cost-income ratio is more or less a con. Accessing fresh money, that's going to be a huge factor in the future. Talking about institutional money, that's one of the pros.
Michael?
For us, it's trust. Trust for our users. Trust that our users will have, knowing that we have MiCA, and trust that we can give to our users to let them know that their digital assets are safe and secure at VENGA. That is the most important thing. And then it's obviously partnerships, contracts that we need to sign, third-party providers. Even again, we're talking about user acquisition here, right? So going back to marketing, talking about marketing partnerships with key opinion leaders. Most key opinion leaders do not want to work with cryptocurrency apps because of scam or a previous scam. MiCA will help us unlock those doors. So for us, it's trust on all sides, on all levels. For users, for partners, for KOLs, multiple opportunities.
Maybe very briefly, Marijn?
Yeah, I think for us it just opens up the institutional market, and on the retail side I think the shift is already happening. We see it in the data. Customers are moving trading venues because MiCA just sets an entirely new framework for what products can look like, and I think global players are struggling with that. So very interesting to see how the retail play will work out in the next 2 years.
Mazurka?
For us, I think MiCA is very important for us as a key to open the long-term strategy, especially for the key market like Europe. We got the MiCA license on May 28th, and I think we prove ourselves to be a very reliable partner for all the financial institutions, for the family office, also for some brokers. We can make it, and we have a professional service. We can definitely build up. And I mean, use our founder, like Ben's word is, we are changing the world, and I think we definitely can start from Europe.
For us, it's definitely the passporting ability. Whereas before, without MiCA, you had to go and seek a license or a regulatory approval in each of the 30 different EEA member states. Now, thanks to MiCA, we can just get it in one home member state and then passport it across all the 30 EEA countries, which I think from a cost, accessibility, and passporting ability to reach 450 million users throughout Europe, I think for OKX that is the biggest advantage.
Well, thank you very much to each one of you. I have learned a lot from you in this panel. It's been extremely valuable. Thank you for all of us, for this full house attending to this panel. I hope you liked it as well. And we will be around. Let's welcome the next talk.
Thank you.